Welcome back to the show. My guest today has been Faisal Susiwala, also known as a top real estate broker in the world for REMAX. Listeners, if you'd like a chance to chat with Faisal yourself, you can start by going to homeshack.com. You can also call Faisal directly, 519-624-5555, or through email, faisal@homeshack.com. Faisal, we know that Cambridge has been a bedroom community for the GTA for years. A lot of commuters have relied on driving into and coming back home on the 401. But that might be starting to change. You had mentioned this idea of some changes to rail plans, especially when it comes to Cambridge. Maybe you can walk us through what you've heard and what that's going to mean for people.
Yeah, so the likelihood of Cambridge residents using the rail is 4 times greater than any of the other regions. So that Pinebush and Hespeler Road is the location of it. The 2021 feasibility study revealed that routing through Guelph offers competitive travel times, and the public support and enthusiasm is the highest it's ever been, backed by the council's unanimous endorsement of this. So as long as all parties are on side, we could be seeing this within 6 years. The only downside would be congestion and parking and noise in the area, but that is something that the studies are working on now to mitigate those concerns. But there's certainly enough land available, there's opportunity, and there is the infrastructure available for this to become a reality in the next 5 to 6 years.
It'll be interesting to see what happens and exciting as well for the area as we continue to expand as well too. Uh,
Yes.
we've got about 5 or 6 minutes. There's a couple of other key things I was reading through the notes before, and the one interesting topic I came across, the idea of investing in real estate to hedge against inflation. And I guess the question is, does it make sense to do something like that where those are the steps that you're taking?
There's always that question, where do I invest my money? I've always said diversification is important, but what you don't want to do is put your money under a mattress and forget about it because inflation will kill that money.
Right.
So over the years, real estate has always been a great hedge against inflation because the rate of appreciation has outpaced inflation rates. And that's where there's value in putting. So if we just look at the example of 2017 to 2022, 68% in some regions was the appreciation factor of real estate. Well, there is much out there that you can invest in that would give you that kind of return, unless, maybe Bitcoin at one time. But again, without the risk, and it's a tangible asset. You own the land, you own the bricks and mortar. It's something that you can use for shelter, you could use to generate income. So there's so many other aspects of investing in real estate to hedge against inflation. But again, diversification is very important. Looking at your risk tolerance, looking at your mental tolerance to deal with rental properties, if that's what
Yeah.
you're going to do, or are you a passive investor that wants to invest in mutual funds? Again, looking at someone's track record, looking at the industry that you're putting in. Investing in gold bars may be a good idea or was a good idea 5 years ago because that is also investing in the stock market. Investing in Rolex watches has outperformed the S&P. It just depends on where that sweet spot is. But whatever you do, putting your money in your account or under a mattress or in a safety deposit box is not going to hedge you against inflation. So deploying some of that money that you have as a nest egg and putting it out there to work for you passively is certainly the best way. And I say this to young people a lot, that start early, start
Mhm.
investing early because you have greater risk tolerance. You have the ability to wait and not, you can have that delayed gratification. You don't need it now. So start putting a little bit away. Also, there's tax benefits that you can get. So there's so many things. And if you want to be in a real estate investment, but you don't want to own the physical property and maintain the physical property, there's partnerships, there's syndications, there's REITs. So some shape, way, or form, I think putting some of your money into a real estate asset is just wise and it will help hedge against inflation.
Smart idea. And that's Uncle Faisal. We always get Uncle Faisal on the show at some point. Right. Last thing, and I came across this and I thought, well, we've always done this, or we used to do it anyway. Both boys right now are off to school. They're not home. They're not using their bedrooms. Does it make sense for me to go in and close off the vents in those rooms where they're not being used? Seems like it would be a great way to save energy, but I think there might be a downside to it as well. Maybe you can tell us what that is.
I was of the opinion that, every winter I go shut all the vents off in the basement and the rooms that are unused and force all of that to go to one area. But apparently it makes your furnace work harder. So I've learned a lot about it. I spoke to an HVAC specialist. So it's actually doing more harm than good. So what you think you might be saving, you're actually spending it back because you're going to have to repair your furnace and whatnot. So the pressure imbalances in your system and the
Okay.
airflow imbalances makes that HVAC system work a lot harder because we have cold air returns and we have hot air returns and we have flows that you're now affecting. And when you're building a home, there are heat loss studies and all kinds of engineering that we don't see that goes in behind the scenes before they deliver a home to you. And that accounts for vents being open, the system working efficiently as it should. So don't disrupt airflow balance. Direct air where it's needed without closing vents. So, have a channel that's coming out from under the cupboard or under the sofa or under the bed, as opposed to just closing it off, saying, well, it's blocked, I might as well shut it off. Change your air filters at, by minimum 90 days to have
Yep.
that flow, because if it's covered and dusty, seal the air leak. So if you have a drafty door or a drafty window, put something there, put a blanket there, seal it, put some caulking, whatever you have to do, get that plastic and cover those windows. And and lastly, those smart thermostats,
Right.
which are great because they monitor a lot of the airflow. They monitor the hot spots, the cold spots, and they balance out. So just use whatever is available to you. But different heating systems are also a good way to be more efficient. So you may want to have zoned systems
Right.
with that
Right.
come in and out, but it doesn't, it's all sort of engineered so that it works cohesively with the system and it doesn't create cold spots. And then just having regular maintenance, having that 1 year at the minimum. I like to have somebody coming in the spring and I like somebody coming in just before winter, just to make sure your humidifier is adjusted, your dehumidifier is not on in the winter, just doing all those little things that will save you a lot of problems later on.
There you go. And that's again why we tune in, because Faisal's got the answers for these things. Listen, Faisal, I want to thank you again for coming on the show today. Always a pleasure to chat with you, and a great way to start the year off as well.
Thanks for having me on, Brock.
Well, always happy to have you on the show. That was Faisal Susiwala, top real estate broker, recently published author of The Real Deal, billion-dollar real estate broker, and someone who knows what he's talking about when we're talking about real estate market and what's going on here in the region as well too. Thanks to you listeners for joining us. You've been listening to Ask the Experts here on 570 News Radio.